That wouldn't have been something.
Off or is red on?
Red. Okay, we're ready to call the meeting to order. This meeting takes place in the traditional and ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. We have an addition to the agenda. That council add agenda item 4.2 CAO appointment to the August 19th, 2025 council agenda. Is someone prepared to move that? Moved by Councillor Strong, seconded. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. So now we have a recommendation in front of us to approve the agenda for the August 19th meeting as amended. Is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Babineau, seconded by Councillor Fullerton. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? And now we have two recommendations in front of us. So I'll read it out because I can't actually make the motion. Recommendation 1, that council waive the requirement for notice to consider a motion to appoint a chief administrative officer in accordance with section 3.2 of the chief administrative officer bylaw. Is someone prepared to move that? Moved by Councillor Strong. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greek. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. And recommendation 2, it's my actual pleasure and honor that council appoint Paul Knopper as the Chief Administrative Officer for the Town of Lunenburg effective immediately in accordance with section 3.2 of the Chief Administrative Officer bylaw. Is someone prepared to move that? Moved by Councillor Strong, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimous. Paul, welcome to the team. We're honored to have you here. Coming from a town like St. Andrews will only benefit us moving forward. So thank you so much. So we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. That council approved the July 15th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented. Moved by Councillor Greek, seconded by Councillor Babineau. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. There's no official presentations tonight, so we move to the public input and questions, the 3 minutes section. So each person is limited to 3 minutes. Each person must state their name. Questions or comments are directed to the chair. Comments and questions are open to any municipal matter. So we'll start. I mean, if there is 6 of you, so if you stick to your 3 minutes, we should be good. So we'll start with number 1 is Lynn Hannah, and Lynn? Yeah.
My name is Lynn Hannah, and Mayor and Council. I'm a resident and taxpayer of the Town of Lunenburg, living at 259 Dufferin Street. On Thursday, August 14th at 2025, at approximately 7:30 p.m., I observed a lame horse of trot-in-time carriage tours slipping on the pavement at the corner of King and Montague Streets, and this may or may not have been the horse that was hit by a camper van on King Street on Thursday, July 17th, 2025. This lame horse slipping on asphalt on the Town of Lunenburg streets is clearly contrary to the hack and trolley bylaw 16A, which states hack operators and hack licensees shall not allow a horse to be used in the hack operation when the horse is not in good health. The hack operators and hack licensees shall not allow the horse to be subject to any condition of treatment which will impair the good health and physical condition of the horse. Without restricting the generality of the foregoing, the following shall deem a horse unfit for use. 16A, lameness of any kind. I also put in D, which is loose shoes or shoes of a type not approved by the town engineer or traffic authority. I'm very concerned for the welfare of this horse and request council exercise their authority under bylaw 17A or B. 17A states the traffic authority or council may require at any time the hack operator or hack licensee at his own expense to have each horse examined by a veterinarian before the horse is used in service. If the horse is considered to be unfit, satisfactory proof of health inspection by a veterinarian and certificate of the veterinarian that the horse is healthy and able to return to work shall be required for the horse to return to work. 17B, the traffic authority or council may also engage a veterinarian at the hack operator's or hack licensee's expense to assess a horse, and if the veterinarian determines the horse unfit for work, may suspend the hack license for such a period as the traffic authority or council deems appropriate. I'm asking council to ensure the welfare of this horse by requesting a certified large animal veterinarian certificate or suspend the hack license for such a period as council deems appropriate. Another note is last evening while out walking, the same horse was lame and sliding on the pavement. Respectfully, Lynn Hanna. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Paul, would you?
Through you, Chair. So for the public in their awareness, staff, bylaw enforcement, as well as myself and several members of council have actually been meeting with the trolley and time operators. We have engaged and followed through on our bylaw enforcement level to actually ask for a vet certificate, which they will actually be having their vet review and provide us a certificate by the end of the week. Reviews are actually occurring tomorrow, to which staff and members of council will still be meeting with the owners to discuss their SOPs. So what are their safety protocols, as well as how are they managing and meeting the welfare? From our understanding, as well as the Department of Agriculture actually did an inspection on them in July, to which they noted they were exceeding expectations of how they handle the animals. So at this time, we are following up. We are reviewing their SOPs, as well as receiving a vet certificate. Upon completion of that, we will assess and make a determination if a license needs to be suspended or not. But at this time, under my advisement and review with bylaw enforcement, we are allowing them to continue to operate under their protective SOPs. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next up is Irma.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. So I'd like to speak again about the sale of the train station. It's perhaps understandable that at the beginning of this process, some councillors and staff may not have been fully aware of the historical significance of train stations. But now, with all the information that has been presented by residents, experts, and many who have spoken out, I don't see how councillors can turn a blind eye and make a decision so contrary to what our UNESCO designation means. We keep hearing that the South Shore Women's Centre needs long-term stability and that ownership is the only way to provide it. But that is so misleading, it's untrue, and simply does not stand up to scrutiny. Across Canada, municipalities have given nonprofits stability through some very, very long-term leases with renewal options. These leases prevent eviction as long as obligations are met, giving tenants permanence without municipalities losing valuable public buildings. A great case study is Toronto's Witchwood Barns. So the city, after significant public input, preserved this heritage site by granting the nonprofit Artscape a 50-year lease rather than selling it. And that long-term lease gave Artscape the security it needed to raise grants, attract investment, renovate the site, all while protecting the public interest. Here in Nova Scotia, Halifax has also granted 20 to 25-year renewable leases to nonprofits operating community facilities. Through HRM's Community Facility Partnership Policy, nonprofits gain the security they need to succeed while the municipality maintains public ownership. These examples prove that stability and public ownership are entirely compatible, not mutually exclusive. So it's extremely frustrating to sit by and allow yet again another public heritage asset to be sold off without a valid, convincing reason. Council has never explained why a secure long-term lease that's used successfully in Halifax, Toronto, and across Canada isn't good enough for our own town. And until that question is answered, a sale simply cannot be justified. We know it isn't about the cost of maintaining the building. The mayor has said money is not the issue. The example of past councils evicting tenants only proves that those tenants didn't have long-term ironclad leases. And the idea that ownership is necessary for grants is misleading. The South Shore Women's Centre is already financially strong, and many funding programs accept long-term leases as sufficient security. We are also told that this process began under the previous council, a council, I may add, that was heavily criticized for its poor stewardship of town property. So why, with our newly elected council on the promise of transparency and openness, are we still making the same grave mistakes when it comes to preserving our heritage for future public good? We need to remember that Lunenburg is one of only 2 UNESCO designated municipalities in all of Canada. With that recognition comes a responsibility to uphold what makes this designation valuable: our built structures, our history, and our symbols of how this town has evolved. To sell off a train station rather than preserve it in public hands is frankly an embarrassment for a town that should be setting the standard for historic preservation. Lunenburg should be the case study of how heritage assets can serve the public good and not a sad example of how they are given away. Before council votes on selling what is undeniably a heritage building, I implore you to postpone this decision until it's explained to residents clearly and honestly why a long-term binding lease is not an option. This is a permanent decision. We deserve solutions that both protect our heritage and our community, and not choices that trade one for the other. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Duncan?
Duncan Crowell, 45 McDonald Street. I'd like to speak tonight on item 11.2, which is water metering. First, I'd like to commend council and staff for bringing this proposal forward. This Nova Scotia summer has illustrated or reinforced, I believe, the importance of water management, and water metering will be one piece of that puzzle to address that challenge. The staff has correctly noted several reasons for water metering for our residences here in town. There are equity reasons. Water metering will ensure that all of us, all users, are paying for what we use. There are environmental reasons to water meter. We need to reduce the amount of water that we're using generally. Now, I know there are those who will argue that Darrers Lake has always given us a plentiful supply of good quality water, and that is true. But under current conditions, I'm not sure whether or not we can have that guaranteed forever. And we need to start thinking about that and addressing it. Hoping we're not going to run out of water is not a strategy. Efficiency reasons. Each of us now that we're metered we'll know exactly how much water that we're using, and we'll be able to adjust our behaviors accordingly. And as staff's pointed out, we will also finally know exactly how much water we're losing through the system, through leakage. For me, there's also a regulatory reason. In 2016 and 2022, the town went to the Utility Rate Review Board with rate applications. During the course of those two proceedings, the board questioned the town quite intensively about why you were not metering your water and why it was not included in the cost studies with regard to those rate applications. I believe the underlying message from the board through that questioning was, you need to meter your water. I believe going forward, or I fear going forward, if we do not meter our water, there is a likelihood that the board in a future rate application may rule unfavorably, and in fact may mandate water metering under their conditions and their timelines. We now have an opportunity now to set those terms and conditions and those timelines. So I would encourage you to proceed with this project. I would encourage you to adopt the staff proposal to not phase it in over several years, but to roll it into 2025, 26. I think we all know that when you defer projects of this nature, the price is not going to go down. The costs will increase, so we should do it now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Townsend? Townsend?
Your worship, Mayor Myra, Deputy Mayor Bailey, Councillors Babineau, Greek, Fullerton, and Strawn. This is interesting because I support, I think Irma couldn't have put it more eloquently, a case for a long-term lease of public asset. But I have written this and pretty much resigned to the fact that you're going to sell the property. So that's the context in which I'd ask you to consider these remarks. I've presented evidence in letters, emails, posts, meetings, and phone calls making the case for registering the CNR Lunenburg station. I think we have made the case quite convincingly, and all that is left is the political will. I get it that you all feel you are too far down the road to change direction now, but parties make changes hours before it closing, and your situation is easily understood. It was a mistake that is no fault of this council or any current staff. I have expressed empathy before for the truly daunting mess with which you were confronted last November. The inaccurate, incorrect information traces back to the recommendation information report dated June 18th, 2025, Appendix A, Land Profile Evaluation Tool number 5. Does the property have any architectural, historical, or recreational value? Does the town's ownership have a role in preserving these values, or are they protected by other means? The report answers, the former CNN station is on the property, and it is not a registered heritage property. I emphasize it is not a registered heritage property. The building will remain occupied by long-term tenants. Does the property have any historical value? Yes, it does. In the individual statement of significance, heritage value, CNR Lunenburg Station is of local significance. It is locally significant as the best preserved physical feature of Lunenburg's railway heritage. It is locally significant as a well-conserved example of a Canadian National Railway station design. Does the town's ownership have a role in preserving these values? Well, yes, absolutely it does. Or are they protected by other means? And no, they are not. I will reiterate the significance of the administrative error referenced in the staff memo dated July 30th is not that the CNR station was mistakenly left in the Heritage Conservation District plan and bylaw, and therefore should not be considered historic. The administrative error was key to the uncovering of earlier mistakes, including that the property is historically significant. It's never too late, and the impact on the new owners will be no greater than that for hundreds of heritage property owners in Lunenburg. Registering the station will serve the greatest good for the greatest number of people. And isn't that what governance is all about? Trying to duplicate the protections provided by designation in a purchase and sale agreement is a fool's errand and far more costly now and down the road. Toward this end, I have been told that applying to register a municipal heritage property is voluntary. And in that spirit, I present you with a draft application, which I hope to discuss with our heritage officer later this week. I understand it cannot be forwarded to the Heritage Advisory Committee without written authorization and the signature of the owner. Will you sign it? I will leave you with this. I often quote John Kenneth Galbraith, the esteemed Canadian economist, who told an audience many years ago, the preservation movement has one great curiosity. There is never retrospective controversy or regret. Preservationists are the only people in the world who are invariably confirmed in their wisdom after the fact. I sincerely hope we can confirm your wisdom after the fact. Be preservationists tonight, please.
You. Deborah? Oh, you scratched it out. Okay. I just thought it's how you signed your name. Okay. Tom?
Thank you, Your Worship and Council, for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Tom Barkley. I am co-owner of 243 Pelham Street. First off, I'd like to thank Deputy Mayor Bailey for bringing one of the agenda items to the fore, that being the wastewater quality of the front and rear harbor. I think it's important to note that this summer has been particularly egregious in terms of the water quality that we've noticed in the back harbor, especially, although I've heard rumor that the front harbor doesn't seem to be faring much better. It's obviously a volume-based problem from what we're seeing on the water back there, and we're seeing on a daily basis sort of industrial, what I call industrial levels of pollution. Now, the other thing I'd like to clearly state here is that I'm fully aware that this is a joint municipal issue, and that Modal, I would like to point out, is also being asked to come to the table on this problem. A letter was recently sent to Mayor McLean-Weil asking that the item be put on an agenda forthcoming, that there be contact made with the Department of the Environment for some regular water testing, and that the time to finger point and blame others is over. This is 2025. And I'd like people to sort of envision this problem as the following. If picture your next door neighbor has an open sewer on their driveway, and everything that goes down their drain lands on their driveway. I don't think it would take us 5 minutes to solve that problem. Just because you can't see where the pipe goes doesn't mean the same thing isn't happening. We recently published a water quality test from the back harbor that failed. There was over 200 parts per 100 mils of E. coli in the water. According to the federal government and the provincial Department of the Environment, both are hazardous to human contact when swimming. So again, I'm anxious to see the report coming from the town, because I think we need some facts. We need to find out what our access points are to the back harbor. Now, Lunenburg's done a very good job of getting the open sewers over time taken care of, yes. However, it's also been a main contributor to the problem over the last 100 or so years. Which brings me to my next point, which I think is probably the most important with the location of this problem. The back harbor basically has no flushing action. All of the waters that leave that bay leave under the Heckman's Island Bridge, which is about approximately 20 feet across, and the Narrows at Second Peninsula and Heckman's or Mason's Island. So what's happening, and I've been referring to my elderly neighbors who've lived there their entire lives and who've been stating that they used to have lobster boats at the head of the harbor. The harbor is actually filling in. It's getting shallower and shallower, and it used to be dredged back in the day at one point. So what I'm suggesting is that the abuse that harbor has been put towards in the last 100 and so years is not going to be remediable if we don't stop what we're doing, and stop it very soon. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm waiting to hear back from MODL. I'll wait to hear your response from your report, and I look forward to engaging and getting these levels of government to work together. The LaHave River program proves that multiple levels of government putting their heads together can solve these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's all we have had sign up. We took the list away. Some people came in afterwards, like we've always done. If anybody missed the sign-up sheet and would like to get up to speak, the podium's yours. Paula's first, and so Paula, and then Sylvia. And
Hi, everyone. I'm Paula Rennie, and I live at 211 Cumberland. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I usually come prepared, but I'm not tonight. I just want to follow up on what Irma said. I agree, and that was my starting argument when I presented June 24th about the fact that, according to the Heritage Conservation District Plan and bylaw, the train station is a historic building. It has local significance and 7 character-defining elements. It seems apparent in my discussions with people on council that this building is going to be sold. That is, and it seems that in those discussions, you just distill down the reason. What is it? That the renos to be undertaken by Second Story will not be impeded if a sale happens quickly. To follow up on what Townie has been saying, I know that he sent the board of Second Story his arguments about the need to register the property as a municipal registered heritage property. And I hope they have read that and understood the argument. Personally, I believe the best way forward is to register the property with all the attendant protections, rather than try and place terms and conditions in a purchase and sales agreement, which will not probably survive a subsequent sale. It is an easy process. It can be done by this council and the Heritage Advisory Council, committee, sorry. Council, you can expedite that process so as not to impede renos and not slow them down. And I think I would like to hear through the chair from Second Story tonight as to why they would not agree to have the property registered. Is there a reason for that? And I think probably all of us would like to hear whether they have a reason for not registering, or if they want to register it, that would be a good thing to hear tonight too. Thank you.
thank you. Sylvia.
Your Worship, Deputy Mayor and Council, this is in regards to Trot and Time. When Willie, the horse's wagon, was struck by a camper van, Trot and Time said that they did have him assessed by a veterinarian, but it wasn't a physical one. It was a Zoom or FaceTime. I'm just wondering how a vet can examine a horse via Zoom. So when they come back to do this next assessment, will it be another Zoom video or will it be hands-on? Will they assess the horses at their workplace and will they go to their living conditions and do a full assessment? Thank you.
Through you, Chair. So the veterinarian will be on site at their farm assessing the animals, each and every one of them.
Mhm.
Right now, they have 5 in operation out of 6, but all 6 will be observed, will be checked physically on hand by the veterinarian. That is actually specifically what I have asked for in their certificate to come back, is a full assessment by a veterinarian, a large vet, to tell us, all right, what is the condition of these animals?
Can I ask which 5 are working and the 6th one that's not working?
At this time, I cannot because I am not, I just don't know. So through you, Chair, at this point, I know they have 6 horses, 5 are in operation, and all of them will be assessed by the veterinarian.
Okay, because they say all 6 are working and that they do 2 days on and 2 days off if
Mhm.
they have the
Well,
appropriate.
through you, Chair, in speaking with the owner this morning, they only have 5 in operation due to another issue. So that is up to the business owner to deal with. From my understanding, the 5 that are in operation will be fully checked, as well as the 6th, with a full report coming back to staff.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'd just like to add that when we get to the second story women's shelter, the train station 10.1 part, I have fully intended to ask second story if they wanted to speak at that time. So I think that would be the appropriate time for them to speak. So we'll move on then to number 8 at this time, which is correspondence. And there's one item under correspondence that we have to deal with. There is a recommendation there in front of us. Is there someone prepared to move that recommendation?
I'd like to move that council support the process of hiring a facilitator to conduct an all-council session to review the REMO governance model as recommended by the REMO Advisory Committee at its meeting held July 21st, 2025.
Moved, is there a seconder? Seconded by the deputy mayor. Any discussion on the recommendation? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion carried. There are no public hearings, public information meetings, or appeals tonight. So we're going to move right into 10.1, sale of 18 Dufferin Street Old Train Station. So before we get into a staff report or anything, I would ask second story if they'd like to come up and say a few comments about the purchase.
That'd be helpful. My name is Stephanie Balcom. I'm the Executive Director at Second Story Women's Center. Thank you for the opportunity to share a few words tonight. For over a decade, 18 Dufferin Street, the old train station, has been our home. During that time, it has become more than just a building, more than what it was. It's a space that the community now recognizes as a place of safety, support, and hope. Should our offer to purchase the building be accepted, we're committed to caring for this building with the same respect and responsibility that we've shown over the past 13 years, ensuring that it remains welcoming, safe, and well-maintained for years to come. I also want to share just some information that people may not know, but the need for what happens inside the center is urgent. Nova Scotia has the highest rate of human trafficking in Canada. And folks in rural areas like those in our service area are at an even greater risk. 1 in 3 women has experienced sexual assault, with rural women again being more vulnerable. At Second Story, we respond to these realities. In our last fiscal year, we provided 1,440 one-on-one counseling appointments. We delivered 129 workshops and program sessions, and we welcomed 77 youth to our summer camps. Behind every one of those numbers is a person from our community who needed safety, healing, and connection and found it at the center. We see 18 Dufferin Street, the old train station, as part of the story of healing and empowerment in our community. We are committed to being responsible and respectful stewards of its past, present, and future. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. So is Tyson given, or is Mark given the report? Okay, so thank you very much. Mark, yeah, you want to give your report?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So to briefly provide some background information, the town of Lunenburg currently owns 18 Dufferin Street, including the old train station and adjacent trail property, which has been home to an underleased second-story women's center for over a decade. Second Story had requested to purchase the property from the town, with subsequent negotiations taking place in keeping with the town's land divestiture policy and a negotiated sale price of $383,403. As part of the process, the town has initiated a subdivision of the property to separate the building and parking lot from the trail and rear portion of the land, which would remain under ownership by the town. The purchase and sale agreement will contain a right of first refusal clause with clear direction on buyback provisions and a long-term easement that provides public access to the back of the property, including for vehicle parking. At the May 27th council meeting, the building and parking lots were declared surplus, and a public hearing was held June 24th, with heritage conservation raised as a primary concern by the public. In follow-up to comments that came out of that meeting, staff do want to note that the HCD plan and bylaw document does contain a draft statement of significance that was prepared by staff at the time the bylaw was developed, related to the old train station. And to provide a note of clarity, this was draft material prepared related to the proposed policy that was not adopted by council. And in the final version of that plan and bylaw, that page in the appendix should have also been removed, given that it wasn't approved. So basically, it was an administrative error. But staff also want to note that even though it's not included or should not have been included in the bylaw and plan document, it doesn't mean that the building doesn't have heritage value. It just means that it's currently not regulated by means of that bylaw. And staff, for consideration, note that Second Story Women's Center has committed to considering the heritage value in any potential renovation work and in consultation with a heritage architect professional. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for Mark? Councillor Strong?
For the chair, Paul, maybe you can answer this. There seems to be some information about the purchase and sale agreement not holding any value once the sale goes through. Are these conditions that will be put into the deed?
Through you, Chair. Conditions, yes. I would advise council that we have those conditions, purchase and sale, things like we'll have the first right of opportunity to purchase back, et cetera, within those processes. I would want it drafted and reviewed by legal, as well as I would actually like to bring it back to council for final vetting, so you understand what's in it before it's signed and gone through the process.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Greek?
Through the chair, Mark, you just mentioned that there would be a long-term easement in place regarding trail access and parking. Is there a specific time frame for that will be put in?
When that would be through the chair. So yes, that would be finalized before the final sale. It's part of the subdivision procedures.
Anybody else have any comments, questions for Mark? Deputy Mayor?
Because there's been so much discussion on the whether or not this particular piece of property is designated as a municipal heritage property, I just think that it's important to mention that I don't see this particular property as a pivotal one with respect to our heritage status within the province and in the heritage community more broadly. So we have 61 municipally designated heritage properties, 7 provincial heritage properties, and 4 federally approved heritage properties. This town is responsible for many heritage buildings that fall within those designations currently. Certainly the Lunenburg Academy is a significant one, and the town has taken great steps in with our current budget and with other items on this particular agenda to ensure the well-being of that heritage property. going forward, and it's been included in the Heritage Conservation District Plan as well. So while I appreciate the efforts made and the fact that there has been recognition of the train station as having heritage significance, I don't see the urgency at this time to cloud the transaction that's being considered at this point in time with a now urgent, seemingly urgent need to declare this property a municipal heritage property. I think one of the main, having been concerned about heritage properties and having been involved in this management of these for quite a number of years, one of the most important things you can do for a heritage property is occupy it and give it life. And the request of Second Story Women's Center is to do just that. So if there aren't any further questions, I'm happy to move the recommendation that is before us. So I'd recommend, or I would move that council approve the sale of the old train station located at 18 Dufferin Street to the Second Story Women's Center at a below market value price of $383,403 with the so mentioned conditions applied.
It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daphne. Any further discussion or questions on the motion? Okay, ready for the vote? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion carried unanimous. Thank you very much. Move on to item 10.2. HSMBC review of designation. Report in front of us, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Staff have recently been notified that the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada has identified Old Town Lunenburg Historic District National Historic Site for review of its designation. The application for review was initiated by Councillor Strawn as a member of the public prior to being elected in June 2024. To briefly note that HSMBC is the advisory body to the Government of Canada on designations of national significance, and the recommendations feed into the eventual designations such as Old Town Lunenburg's. So to be clear, this is a separate body from the one that governs the World Heritage Program, but looks at heritage value from a national lens. The review of designations program was initiated by HSMBC and its Secretariat at Parks Canada, with the recognition that perspectives and interpretations of history in Canada have changed significantly over time, and some designations and their related bronze plaques include dated, inaccurate, or insensitive content that does not reflect what is known or important to say in the country's history today. Designations are reviewed for reasons related to colonial assumptions, terminology, absence of history, controversial beliefs and behaviors, and new research being available. The process involves a Parks Canada historian conducting research and preparing a report for the board, which will ultimately lead to one of three outcomes, including a new or modified reason for designation, the maintenance of the existing designation, or find that there's insufficient historical knowledge or another issue that makes it impossible to provide a recommendation. The town will be notified of the outcomes as it progresses along, and staff feel the related work and research is important to the community, and that related work will be helpful and feed into current and future town initiatives related to ensuring an authentic and relevant representation of history, especially of underrepresented histories. And I note that the town is not required to submit a separate application to the program, given that the review was accepted. However, staff are seeking endorsement to recognize the outcomes and in considering how it can feed into future work, including in historical interpretation initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mark? If not, Councillor Strong, if you'd like to make this recommendation, go ahead.
I don't know if it would be a conflict for me to make a recommendation, but I just wanted to point out that the timeframe for making this is really unique in approving it. So I think it's great that they looked at it and within 12 months and they're willing to go ahead with it. And I really would be happy to have a historian come to the town and tell us more, because I'm really getting tired of digging away in the vaults of the Anglican Church and finding out things that are just amazing that would really resonate here in the town. Anyway, so having said that, I would like to recommend that the council, a motion endorsing the process underway by the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada and Parks Canada for the review of the designation of the town, Lunenburg Historic District, National Historic Site of Canada.
It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Babineau. Any further discussion around the motion? Deputy Mayor?
Not just a commentary that I think this is a wonderful opportunity. I think as it's a very onerous task to look into all that needs to be researched and to have the support of the federal department, taking this on, and that we will be able to then move appropriately to change or to adopt new recommendations that are appropriate given the knowledge and the world that we now live in. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. So happy to support the motion.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Babineau.
I just wanted to thank Councillor Strawn for bringing this forward, and I look forward to being able to bring it to the Anti-Racism and Diversity Committee when we meet next.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ready for the vote? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. On to 10.3, request for direction, marketing levy bylaw, and that is Kayla.
Thank you. So tonight we do have a request for direction. So as you'll all recall, back in May, Council had agreed they'd like to pursue a marketing levy with the implementation date scheduled for April 1 of next year. And that would encompass some targeted engagement with operators. So we had a bylaw that logistically fit for them as well as operationally for us. So as we started digging into that, a couple of questions arose about a couple of things. So we're hoping council could provide some direction on that. So one of them being an item that would affect the marketing levy bylaw is council has signaled that they would like to explore possible amendments to the land use bylaw, which could restrict short-term rentals. So if council did want to go forward with that, it might not make sense to do targeted engagement with those particular operators. We might be asking them for their input, and then a few months later, they potentially might not be eligible to be short-term operators. And then a second issue that's kind of happening is the province has acknowledged that municipalities are having some struggles with third-party platforms. So those platforms like Airbnb and what that remittance looks like. So the province is looking at potentially creating like a centralized system where they collect all the money and then they're responsible for doling out. And again, these are for your properties or operators that are using like Airbnb, Vrbo, not your traditional hotels, motels, bed and breakfast. So based on those two things that are kind of percolating, we are asking council what they think the direction should be for starting the work on that. So there's 3 options outlined in the report. One, you could completely pause all work on it until council figures out what they want to do with short-term rentals. Second option is more of a phased approach where we would look at just those traditional ones. So again, the hotels, motels, bed and breakfast, which is actually the bulk of the ones we have registered on the short-term rental. So it would still be worth it to explore that kind of thing. And then we could start experimenting what the marketing levy looks like, but recognizing they might think that's a little bit unfair. And then the third option is just to go forward with a full-blown implementation like was originally planned. And that would be the most direct and consistent approach. So those are kind of 3 options for council to discuss. If you have any questions about any of that, here to answer them.
Anybody have anything they want to bring forward at this point? I have some comments, but if you want to go, Deputy Mayor.
potential short-term rental regulations that we may look into the future. I think it's, as a matter of fairness to all short-term rental operators at this point in time, I think it's important that we move ahead and include them all. But I think it would be also very fair and important and transparent to share with the short-term rental operators who do operate on those platforms and in a, non-traditional way of providing short-term accommodations, that we apprise them of the fact that we are looking at making changes. So I would support option 3 above the others at this point.
Basically, that's what I was going to say as well. I think it's all or nothing. And I mean, we've left a lot of money on the table the last number of years. We're a tourism destination. All you have to do is go down by that subway intersection there this summer and see the people there and on Blue Nose Drive. And every place all over the world has a marketing levy. So we're leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table that could be used for events and tourism related things. Like the province has come out with specific rules what you could spend it on. But again, I think that we should have did this 2 years ago, in my opinion, but things changed and things came up, it didn't happen. And we can always change the bylaw or update the bylaw if we do make revisions to the NPS or LUB. But I think every year around this time, this comes to the table and we defer it till next year. And I think in fairness to the short-term rental people as well, if we're going to do it, we should be getting it geared up now and telling them we're going to do it. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. Staff's putting it together, but make it very clear there's going to be a 3% marketing levy coming into effect, say April 1st, 2026. So then those operators have time now to change their pricing on Booking.com or Trivago or whatever all the sites are. There's a ton of them. And again, when it comes to how you collect it and how we get it, like, again, we're way behind the 8 ball here. Like, this isn't rocket science. So there has to be communities around that we can contact that already have a marketing levy in place and say, can you send us your template? Can you tell us how you do it? We're going to be one of the last coming on board here, so it shouldn't be that difficult to figure out. It'll take a lot of time from staff, and I appreciate that. But again, I think for many reasons, just kept getting deferred and deferred and deferred for years, to be honest. And now's the time to move. But I'd only support option 3. That's the only way it's fair, in my opinion. We would get totally destroyed if we did it for the traditional, and the 11 that aren't traditional we didn't make charge the levy, because quite frankly the 11 that are non-traditional that have unoccupied homes and live elsewhere in the country and rent them out short-term rental, they're the homes that probably primarily are the ones taken from the housing market, quite frankly. So if you're doing it for that reason as well. So that's my 2 cents worth, but I really can't make a motion or anything, but I'm just letting you know how I feel. And I think that everybody knows that I've been a strong component of the marketing levy since 2005. So it's been a while. So if someone's prepared to make a motion for direction or whatever, it would be great. There is a draft motion, direct staff to move ahead with option 3 for the direction on the proposed marketing levy bylaw. So someone prepared to move that. Moved by Councillor Strong, that's seconded by Councillor Fullerton. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. So we'll move on to 11.1, request to defer Lunenburg Academy roof repairs. We have a staff report. So Tyson.
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening, I'm covering the Lunenburg Academy roof repairs tender results. The recommendation from staff is that council defer the Lunenburg Academy roof repairs project with the intention of staff reducing the scope and revising the budget for this item for the 2026-27 town capital budget. So defer it to next year's town capital budget. We've also included a couple of alternatives that council increase the 25-26 capital budget by $1 million and award the tender And then the second alternative would be that council defer the Lunenburg Academy roof repair project with the intention of staff keeping the same scope and then retendering 26-27, the same scope. So the background on this, and I know we've covered this a few times previously, but for the benefit of those that weren't here or can't recall, we deal with several active leaks in the Lunenburg Academy roof. Back in June 2024, the consultant Fishburne Sheridan was awarded the request for proposal for a condition assessment, and then subsequent design and tender document preparation, and quality insurance reviews for the roof repair scope. So there are challenges with the academy. The roof's considered in fair condition, although significantly deteriorated at the slope cedar shingle areas. With targeted repairs and replacement, the roof could be brought up to standard, but the water intrusion is in many areas of the roof. So these include the membrane valleys, generally near dormers and towers, which require replacement to correct the issue. To accomplish this, a significant portion of the cedar shingle must be disrupted and replaced, in which case replacing a larger area of roof face would provide the most value, as the staging, like the scaffolding that we would need to put up at the side of the building to access the top, will remain a consistent repair and maintenance challenge and expensive. So within the tender that we're talking about, the scope of work was replacing the existing cedar roofing at all slope roof areas, gables, hips, and towers with factory finished cedar shingles. Again, and that's just trying to work efficiently. When the scaffold's set up, we get the most bang for our buck. The replacement of the valleys and flashings with new lead-coated copper materials to stop the water intrusion. And then targeted replacement of the cedar shingles and improving the flashing at the mansard elevation. So the mansard's the steeper portion, sort of lower down on the roof. So in terms of the tender itself, it closed on June 26 and has 60-day validity. So we're certainly approaching the end of that period. Received 2 tenders and the results are summarized in the table. So the lowest tender we received was over $1.6 million, and that's excluding tax. And our budget for the project was $750,000. So comes back to that $1 million we're short that was identified. So in terms of that $750,000 budget, it was based off a Class C estimate that the consultant provided, and we added a 25% contingency to that to try and cover off some of the risk that's associated with the Class C. When we asked the consultant to review the results of the tender, they identified uncertainty over labor and material costs due to market factors and things like tariffs requiring contractors to price in additional risk. It's also noted that the 2 tenders that we received are from out of province, both the contractors. So again, based on the outcome of the tender, staff have been doing analysis and have received a further recommendation from Fishburne Sheridan of options to reduce the scope potentially. So within this reduced scope, the consultants tried to identify the items that are critical for the next 2 years in terms of the functionality of the building. So that would include replace the membrane in all valleys and eyebrow dormers, repair the membrane in all towers, replace the cedar shingles on the north and east elevations, replace the cedar shingles at all towers, and paint the mansard roof area. So by deferring the project, that would give opportunity for this preliminary work on the reduced scope to progress. We would still have the original scope that was tendered this year as well, and depending on council's preference and what comes from the further refining of the reduced scope, staff can provide a recommendation in terms of presenting the 26-27 town capital budget. Just going back to the financial for a minute, a reminder that within that $750,000 budget, the town received a commitment from the Lunenburg Academy Foundation for $250,000 at that time, and also from Parks Canada for $250,000. So if we were to defer, we'd certainly look at retaining that Parks Canada contribution. We'd likely have to make another submission to them for their review. And then we've been engaged with the Lunenburg Academy Foundation on different options and whether there's different mechanisms there. That concludes the report. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Tyson. My only comment is that between the Academy Foundation and the town, we've spent about $120,000 on a professional consultant firm to come back with a possible budget number that we could budget properly. And they're not only, we added 25% to the price they gave us. So we added $150,000 on top of the price they said it would cost, and they were still off by $1.1 million. So, you know, I don't quite understand that, to be quite frank, and I think that we do every community does too much of that at times. We pay consultants to give us scope of work with no guarantee they're even close, and there should be something within those scopes somewheres that says if you're not within a certain amount or whatever, you get a money back or something. This really was appalling when I saw the report. I was blown away, and I hate to say it. And I mean, they're professional consultants, and they were 1.1 million off. I mean, I know some buddies that are carpenters that probably could have been closer to the price than that, quite frankly, and they came with the price for a lot less than $120,000, right? So, I mean, again, that's what shocks me, because that's another 60 grand we each could have put into the project, quite frankly, if they were going to be that far off, right? But in saying that, that's not going to make the number go down. I know that there's been a lot of discussion since this report has come out, and some other things have happened. So I think the deputy mayor has some suggestions you'd like to bring up.
Well, I thank Tyson again now because, and Paul as well, because they both, along with Lisa, indulged me considerable amount of time discussing this particular issue. And while I share everyone's frustration, and it's around the, you know, it's not restricted to anyone in any particular position. It's a really awful position to be in. It is what it is. So we have to deal with the reality we're faced with. So seeing that and knowing where we are, I think the best move forward is whatever can put us in the best position going forward, and looking at the timing of where we are in the calendar year and what that means for work of this nature as far as, you know, success and risks. I would agree with the recommendation that we defer the work and you know, reject the proposals that were responded to the tender, but then look at retendering as soon as it makes sense to do so for the full scope. And but as was mentioned, that there's opportunity to do a reduced scope. So if we face the same situation on our next go round, you know, then at least we'll be prepared with a reduced scope to go back out to the market as we need to do, and get the building at least weather tight, and then we look at a fuller scope. But we know that that's not, you know, as As Tyson mentioned, that's not the best route. We don't want to have to do it in 2 phases, but we have to do what we can do. So I would agree with the recommendation that and I put forth a motion, which is of course open to discussion, that council defer the Academy roof repair project with the intention of staff keeping the same scope for the 26-27 town capital budget and going forth with that tender process as expediently as possible.
There's a mover. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Strong. Further discussion or questions? I think it's been discussed internally at quite length. Did you want to speak, Bruce? But we've discussed internally that in the meantime, if this motion passes, us and the Academy Foundation will be having many meetings if we need be with other levels of government. Because at this point, the province isn't involved in this project. So we would meet with our provincial folks and see if there's any help there. And again, I think the key is we got to get this tender out as early as we possibly can, knowing that we're pushing the money forward. So if you've committed to move it forward, and if we can get the commitment from Parks and our commitment, and then in the meantime, work with others, at least we know what we have at this point and get the tender out ASAP, because people are looking for work in the middle of the winter. And I think by the time this tender went out, it was probably later on. So that had a lot to do with it. Again, I don't see the 1.1 million to do with it, but it was still. So that's what we were talking about. There will be a lot of discussion about this, but I think if we defer it now and commit our funds, which is part of the motion, that at least it shows that it is a priority of ours. So does the Academy Foundation want to speak, Bruce? Yep, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. I had a few things to say, but the mayor and the deputy mayor basically said what I had intended. But there was 2 points that I wanted to come to, which is to reemphasize what the mayor said with regard to getting the retender out as soon as possible. I mean, we all know how difficult it is to get a contractor to do anything from just work we have done around the house. And yeah, they might give you a price for it, but you're not going to get a good price unless you plan long in advance for that. And I think we got nailed here this year because of that. We issued the tender in May for work we wanted to have done August, September period. And I'm sure they looked at it and said, yeah, that's work we'd love to do, but we don't need. So let's put in a real high number and maybe we'll get lucky. Well, we certainly don't want to have the same situation next year at this time. We want to be well into the construction or have it done preferably by then. So I would re-emphasize that we'd like to see that tender go out as soon as possible so that interested contractors, and hopefully there will be some local ones as well, will be able to put that into their plans for next year and will submit a competitive price. The second point I wanted to make was I'd really like to encourage that the retender is for 2 prices, one for a reduced scope and one for the full scope. There's no reason the consulting engineer can't break that out and delineate the 2 scopes clearly. And that will give us, the town and the foundation, the opportunity to take the reduced scope if necessary, but we might get a pleasant surprise if we get early prices that are a lot more competitive. We can get the full scope done as we originally intended. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. And like I said, the town certainly here and the Academy Foundation to work together, and we just need some of our other partners and other levels of government to step up. And I'm sure we'll get the result we're looking for, hopefully this time around. So there is a motion on the table. Are we prepared to vote? All those in favor of the motion, there's a motion, right? I thought it was seconded. Okay, nobody seconded it. We need a seconder. Seconded by Councillor Strong. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Thank you very much to staff for the report. Now we're on to 11.2, water meter supply and installation.
Thanks.
Thank you again, Your Worship. here to present the water meter supply and installation RFP award. So there's two recommendations. The first is that council increase the budget for the water meter supply and installation project for 25-26 to $1,048,000 funded by depreciation reserves from the water utility. The second recommendation is that council award the water meter supply and installation request for proposal RFP to Neptune Technology Group for the amount of $839,741 plus tax. And the alternative is not to award the RFP at this time. So in terms of the background, the Town of Lunenburg water utility is currently supplying water to residential properties at a flat rate charge. So during the course of the 2022 Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board rate review session, the water utility committed to utilizing water meters for residential premises in addition to the existing commercial premises metering as a better and fairer way to bill consumers for their water usage. Based on Council's April 12, 2022 motion in support of universal water metering. And as Duncan identified, there's many advantages with water meters in terms of reducing the water wastage and assisting the utility in identifying water leaks within our system. So this particular RFP, the scope included the supply and installation of new water meters to all existing water utility customers. So we're talking about 1,268 or so meters, including the verification, testing and certification. So that would include all our existing commercial customers getting upgraded with new meters, and then all residential customers getting meters installed. Each meter is to be supplied with an encoder to allow drive-by automatic reading. So at the moment, to go and read commercial meters, our water resource operators physically have to attend the building, either locate the meter and physically write it down on a piece of paper, or some of them have an external reader, but it's essentially that. So it's visiting every property, either monthly or quarterly, depending on the billing. So very, very time consuming. So the supply of the handheld units for the utility operators to perform the automatic reading. So this includes hardware, software, and training. The integration of the automatic reading technology with the existing Town of Lunenburg accounting and billing systems. So again, we're getting rid of this manual component transferred from the field down to finance, where it has to be manually entered. And then the supply and installation of isolation valves at the location of each water meter. So essentially that's a ball valve at each location. So if the meter needs to be removed to be repaired or replaced, we're not creating a giant mess when that happens. It would isolate the meter. And also part of the RFP is the coordination of stakeholder management. So it includes the following items: mailouts to utility customers outlining the project, benefits of metering, and the process to book a meter installation. And that would be either through a website or telephone. Provide project details and updates suitable for the town to share with utility customers via social media or other distribution methods. Issue appointment reminders prior to meter installs to utility customers. And then follow up mailouts to utility customers that have not scheduled appointments. So in terms of the RFP itself, it closed on April 10th with a 90-day validity period. And then this was extended a further 45 days. So it gives us till August 22nd. So we're getting quite close. So within the request for proposal process, it's different to a tendering process where the RFP specifies the certain values that would be given to different components of the proposal. So with a tender, generally the lowest price wins if everything else conforms. There are exceptions to that, but generally that's the premise. Whereas in an RFP, it allows us to prescribe different values to different components. So in this particular RFP, price was given 25% of the points. And then there are other items such as the project timeline or schedule, the competency of the proponents, and then the competency of the specific project teams, and then the methodology for the execution of the scope. So with the water metering, staff feel the RFP was a better way to do it because the metering is something we're going to have to deal with hands-on for 20, 25 years. That was kind of the perspective we brought to it. And if we're just judging on the upfront price for the supply and install of the meters, that devalues that long-term relationship that would be created here. So the table, middle of page 2, summarizes the RFP score and then the price that was associated with that proposal as well. So close scores between the two leading proponents. While our favored proponent did not have the lowest upfront price, it was still well within budget, and their proposal was very strong in terms of being essentially the industry leader in water meters. They have extensive experience performing similar scopes within Nova Scotia and other parts of Canada. Their stakeholder management also presented as an asset with the option to book online, by phone, 24/7 coverage, and support for customers experiencing issues. So outside of the price here, obviously we're talking about 1,200 plus installs in individual homes, and it's very difficult to know every specific location until it's reached. So the proponents have offered standard rates that would apply. They have to document them. That would be reviewed by staff to receive any additional costs associated with the installs. So looking at the finances, the amount approved in the 25-26 water utility capital budget was $600,000, with funding allocated from the utilities depreciation reserves. There was also a further $750,000 earmarked within the 26-27 water utility outline, sort of looking ahead in that budget item, with the same funding source. So looking at those two together, that gives us $1.35 million within the budget. And between the RFP, any expected professional fees, and then a contingency which would cover things like the provisional items we talked about for the unique installs, that gets us to the $1.048 million. So in terms of looking at 25-26, it's an increase of 448, but looking across the 2 years, it's a reduction of around $300,000. That concludes the report. If there are any questions.
Thank you. Are any questions for Tyson? Great report, actually. It was very clear, and I think that it makes perfect sense to do it all at once, personally. So when you spread out capital projects over time, it never costs less unless something really weird changes. So there is a couple recommendations. Is anyone prepared to move the first recommendation? Councillor Babineau?
I move that council increase the budget for water meter supply and installation project budget for 25-26 to $1,048,000 funded by depreciation reserves.
Moved. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Fullerton. Any further questions or discussions on that recommendation? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Recommendation number 2. Does someone want to have a shot at that one? Councillor Greek.
I move that council award the water meter supply and installation request for proposals RFP to Neptune Technology Group for the amount of $839,741 plus HST.
Been moved. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Fullerton. Any further discussion or question on that motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimous. Water meters, here we come. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to 11.3, which is the Fishers Memorial Service. Jamie Deans has a report.
Thank you. So the recommendation would be that council approve the rental of a tent to support the Fishers Memorial Service. Quick correction, it's a mug up now, it's not a gala. And associated anniversary programming. Also that council approve the purchase of a table at Fishers Memorial Service mug up, and further recommend that the seats be donated back to the event organizers to be made available to individuals and families with a connection to those being honored. The alternatives here are obviously council can choose to support or deny the request. So background, upcoming Fishers Memorial Service will be the 100th anniversary of the event, and as such, there was an interest to recognize the milestone appropriately. In talking with Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic, it became clear that there was an opportunity to make the long weekend a multi-day event, recognizing the 100th anniversary of the Fishers Memorial of Safety at Sea and the 30th anniversary of Lunenburg's UNESCO designation. Tent would allow for all 3 of these things to be planned with some certainty and create much more significant occasion marking these 3 anniversaries, the certainty being protection from weather and a set location. Discussion, in addition to providing protection from the heat and or inclement weather, the tent will allow for the expanded activities over the course of the long weekend. Friday the 5th would be UNESCO's 30th anniversary. We display and basically an opportunity for people to come and learn about what the UNESCO designation means. It's a sort of the unofficial kickoff to the activities that we would be concluding in December, which marks the official designation. Saturday is the Safety at Sea. It's an anniversary program, including stories at sea, remembrance and reflections, an open and welcoming gathering that invites people to share their experiences, memories, and reflections about life on the ocean. And then for the Sunday, in addition to obviously providing protection from potential uncooperative weather, it would allow for the mug up in the evening. The proposal would see 60 to 80 families, family members and relatives of those being honored attend the event, recognize their contributions and sacrifices. This one-off event would allow for families to gather in a setting that would allow for connection and conversation around their family's shared histories. Cost of the tent rental is $3,000. The gala table or the mug-up table would be $1,500. And our typical expenses for the Fishers Memorial Service are about $1,500. So it is a little bit more than we'd normally be spending, but it does all fall into the public celebration budget for fiscal 25-26. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Jamie? I know the museum's here. Would you guys like to also, you guys have anything you want to say?
Museum of the Atlantic. Thank you to the mayor and the council. Just a few little clarifications that I'd like to make. Because if the tent does get approved, it does allow for us to sort of extend that acknowledgement of the 100th anniversary of the Fishers Service by us, the museum, hosting an additional event the day prior. In the past, we used to have a Safety at Sea event. This year, I did not feel that really fit the mood of what we were trying to create for the 100th anniversary. So this time it is being called Stories of the Sea, Remembrance and Reflection. And with that, I've reached out to a variety of partners that I have. So I have a commitment made by the Coast Guard, who's willing to come and share their success stories
where they've had successful rescues of fishers. I've had success with people in the fishing industry. For example, Captain Kevin Garland has agreed to come and talk about the Atlantic Destiny and that success story. So I have a host of people from Fish Safe Nova Scotia. And the guest speaker, with which we would sort of kick the event off with, is Marilyn d'Entremont. She's a volunteer with the Threads of Life organization. This is a non-for-profit where all of the proceeds go back into fishing communities to support safety practices. She herself has lost her partner to the sea, and that's how we will open this up. The rest of it will not be formal. It'll be just a semicircle conversation, really wanting this to be an opportunity for the fishers to get together, to share their stories, and look at it as a part of a healing process and a bonding for us to come together. I myself, obviously, am a bit of a history buff, being that I'm with the Fisheries Museum, but I think this is really important to the culture. It's really part of the fabric of this community. So the Fisheries Museum is working very hard to make this a significant event that it deserves. And we also have the great partner of Candace here with the Lunenburg Board of Trade.
So just a little bit of clarification, and I know previously we had decided on having a gala supper, but after careful consideration from community partners, we felt that that was a little bit too formal. So what we've decided to do was to have a mug-up reception, which is more in line with the fishermen's and more of a casual event. So we still are looking for sponsors of that event. It will cover the cost of the meals for about 200 participants, and that will follow right after the memorial service. As of now, we have several community partners that will be contributing to that. One of the asks would be the town for the $1,500. The Board of Trade will be doing $1,500. The museum, $1,500. Adams and Knickles, Ocean Gear also will be contributing $1,500, and a few other smaller community partners at $500. That will cover the cost above and beyond some of the tent coverage, because it is a little bit more expensive than $3,000 with tax and some of the things, and a few decor items in regards to just having music, entertainment, and table linens, that sort of thing for within the tent, some lighting, and obviously the permits that would be required to have the tent set up. So that is kind of what that process would look like. And the ask from town would be recovering the tent and $1,500 sponsorship along with the rest of the community. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
Any questions? I'll make a comment. I just want to thank Hilda and Candace for really, we've had some staffing things happening here these past years or so, and a lot of new staff. So with the 100th anniversary coming up, they did jump on this early on in the process when we really didn't have staff in place, and they've had a lot of this sort of pretty much organized when we got involved. So I mean, we've only ever looked after the actual service. So this whole extra thing is very nice of the museum and the Board of Trade to partner on. And again, I just want to thank you on behalf of the town and the community, because this isn't certainly something you folks have to do, right? So again, I know the community appreciates the partnerships that the three of us always seem to do, and it always seems to work better when we all work together. So thank you very much. Anybody? Deputy Mayor?
I guess, pile on that just a little bit, but the 100th anniversary is very significant. And speaking to some of the conversations we had earlier in the evening, it's this kind of thing that is also, it's very important to our heritage. It's not just buildings, it's how we carry on our traditions and what that looks like. And certainly the fishing industry is the heart and soul of Lunenburg, and this event and recognizing it fully with the support and help of our partners is very important, and we're very happy to have Jamie here to lead our end of it, and certainly think I'd be happy to move the recommendations as motions as well. That move that council approve the rental of a tent to support the Fishers Memorial Service and associate anniversary programming. And I don't do can I wrap it all into one Yeah, that, that we further support the event with a contribution of $1,500 for the Mug Up event and any other expenses that we typically incur to support the memorial service.
It's been moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greek. Any further discussion on the motions? I just want to also highlight in that recommendation that we're buying a table, but we're not using the table. Where that table is going to be made available for a family of fishers that would like to come and, maybe not be able to afford the $1,500 or want to. So we're doing this as a contribution to the event. So you guys, that'll be a table you can feel free to use. So again, thank you very much. There's a motion with a mover and seconder. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, motion carried unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. So we're at 11.4, Community Climate Capacity Program, a verbal update. Tyson?
Thank you, Your Worship. This verbal update is to advise Council of the town's successful application to join the Community Climate Capacity Program for 2025, focused on coastal municipalities. So this program is funded by the Nova Scotia Department of Environment and Climate Change and provides communities with a dedicated staff of specialists who can help guide them through climate and sustainability initiatives at the local level. And it's effectively a 3-year commitment. So it would run from now until March 31, 2028. This program was created to provide between 6 to 10 selected municipalities in Nova Scotia the chance to collaborate and identify individual climate challenges and implement effective adaptation and mitigation strategies. So participating in this program, the town shall receive the following opportunities: a dedicated community navigator to help us access funding, planning and implementation initiatives, access to a broader team of Clean Foundation climate specialists, and then invitations to participate in a partners summit for the members of the 6 to 10 municipalities and members of the program. So the town submitted an expression of interest in participating in the program back in early June and was invited to submit a full application in mid-June. Our application focused on the climate capital projects we have. So Tannery Road Culvert, that's included in the capital budget for future years, and to build off the storm separation master plan that's currently underway. That'll help us plan for all our future storm separation projects. And the challenges that intense precipitation and storm events present to our existing systems and aging infrastructure. Projects earmarked for year 1 of the program include the further analysis of the storm separation recommendations from the sewer system modelling and the master plan, assessing the previous climate change plan for continued relevance and potential improvements, and looking for further opportunities for incremental improvements that private property owners could take to mitigate the impacts of storms, things like that. So a very exciting opportunity for the town to be selected and participate. And yeah, the access to the planning and funding assistance hopefully delivers excellent results for us. So staff can continue to provide council with regular updates throughout the course of the program as it continues. That concludes the verbal update, but if there are questions, it's very early days. We're just getting the agreement signed, so don't have a lot of the nitty-gritty, but.
Any questions for Tyson, Deputy Mayor?
No questions, just congratulations. Yay.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Tyson. So now we're going to move on to notice of motions, information requests, and council reports. So before we, I guess we'll do the draft motions first, and then we'll get on to council reports after that. I just want to say before we start that if you actually listen to the 3 draft motions that we have or notice of motions going forward, it proves that the council and the people sitting around this table are listening when things are said on social media and on street corners and within the town. All 3 of these items have been sort of, I want to say, hot topic items the last couple of weeks. So we are paying attention, we are listening, and that's why these motions are brought forward. So again, we might not all agree to, to the same end results, but we have to make decisions on things, and that's what we've been elected to do. And again, all 3 of these have been sort of Facebook top 5 items in the last month. So I hope the community is happy to know that we are listening and we are bringing things forward. But there is a process we have to follow as well. We just can't snap our fingers and make things better all of a sudden. So the first notice of motion basically is the community grant review policy. Deputy Mayor.
Sure, this was resulting from our previous meeting when we were charged with doing that review. So it was just put forth that making the motion now that council asks staff to review and if necessary propose updates to the town's community grants policy and doing so in advance of the next application cycle.
So that's just a notice of motion? That's a direct date. So that's been moved. Is there a seconder? Second by Councillor Strong. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimous. The next one I had requested, but I can't give a motion. Councillor Dufferin.
The council directs staff to review the hack and trolley bylaw, taking into account regulations from other jurisdictions with similar climates and tourism activities, and bring the review back for discussion at an upcoming committee of the whole meeting, with the intent that any required updates to the bylaw be completed by spring 2026.
That's moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Babineau. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimous. The next one is also something I requested. Who would like to? Councillor Strong.
I'd like to make a motion that council direct staff to prepare a report for discussion at a future committee of the whole meeting that reviews the town's current practices for live streaming council and committee meetings, identifies which types of meetings should be live streamed, and includes a scan of live streaming practices in other Nova Scotia municipalities.
It's moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greek. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimous. And the last one, the Deputy Mayor.
Sorry. I was doing so well all meeting. That notice of motion and I just prior to the meeting had a very brief discussion with our engineer, but this was intended to get some clarification and education for us as counselors, but for the community at large as well as to what is happening with our wastewater treatment system and what, if any, ill it is bringing or a current system is imposing on harbor water quality, which was raised in particular with respect to the back harbor, as Mr. Barkley referenced. But certainly I am no stranger to concerns about water quality and quality of effluent that's going into our harbor. So certainly an update would be very helpful, I think. So, and I just made suggestions of what that could include. So my notice of motion would be that council directs staff to prepare a report on the town's wastewater treatment system and its relationship to harbor water quality concerns, including an overview of whether and how untreated or partially treated sewage may enter our front or back harbors, a plain language summary of the current treatment system upgrades and their anticipated impact on effluent quality, and contextual information to support public understanding of the town's wastewater practices.
So it's been moved. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Daphne. Any further discussion or question on that item? Seeing none, all those raise your right hand. Motion carried unanimous. So now, since there's no more draft motions or notice of motions, we'll go to our council reports. And we'll start this week on the left and go this way. So Councillor Fulton, your mic's on.
Nothing to report.
Councillor Greek,
Nothing to report.
Councillor Babineau,
Nothing here.
Councillor Strong,
I'm not going to bore you too much because I have Lyme and everything's kind of screwed up in my head right now. But it feels like it's been a long time since we've given the councillor's report. And I just want to say it's been an absolutely hectic and busy summer in the town of Lunenburg. And especially today, when I had to rush down and go off the gangplank and shake hands with Mr. James or Jimmy T. Tarantino and his partner on the rowing of the dory across from Gloucester. That was exciting, but I also wanted to mention, and I know I try to do these council reports instead of at a public meeting like this or on live stream or whatever, on my Facebook page. And this past weekend was just absolutely amazing between the dory racing and the 800 kids or whatever it was that were in the pool, swimming pool, screaming. And I think it was a major success story for the town of Lunenburg. Speaks to all of the work that has gone into developing this town over the years. And in particular, I wanted to throw out thanks to Billy Gerhardt, who really stepped up to the scene today. That whole weekend, was working late at night when I walked my dogs on Saturday, moving things with a forklift. And he shared with me that that was the birthday. That would have been the 90th birthday of his father, who, well, we all know that we wouldn't have a pool if it wasn't for somebody that could dig and somebody that could raise money. So go and read my thing on Facebook if you want to have any information. And I wanted to wish my neighbor across the street happy first year at Acadia. That's it.
Councillor Daphne.
I want to recognize the passing of Carolyn Lonis. Carolyn was mom to my good and lifelong friend and our 86 classmate, Kurt Lonis, his sister Terry, and wife to Big Terry. Carolyn was witty, gave sage advice amongst many other attributes. Rest in peace, Carolyn. The Royal Canadian Sea Cadet Corps, number 39 Neptune, offers a free program from September to June to youths aged 12 to 18. To say this organization is wonderful is an understatement. You may email 39rcscc@gmail.com for more information. Kayla, I have this written down. A coastal town hall will be held on Wednesday, September 17th at the Lunenburg Fire Hall from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The conversation will be hosted by Sam Mack, grandson of Sherman and Barbara Swicker of the Coastal Coalition of Nova Scotia, and Nicholas Winkler of the Ecology Action Center. The conversation will center around coastal protection and coastal access issues, which is a very emotional and worrisome issue for many of us. Newly renovated and still happening, Pajot's Bowling is rolling into September, looking for young and old to join a league. If you have some spare time, don't strike out and miss your chance. Call 902-634-8344 to join in on the fun. And lastly, a little bit of a, well, they're all kind of cool, but
This is cool.
this is really cool. So Debbie Kessler Hirsch and husband Bill from Rochester, New York, arrived in Lunenburg today. You're thinking, okay, so big deal, right? Debbie and I became friends on Facebook years ago because at that time her name was Debbie Daphne. On Thursday, I'm going to show them the sites, and American Debbie, as I call her, would also like to meet the people who have played a part in my life, which to me could be dicey. If you see us around on Thursday, come say hi. Oh, and one more thing, research done on both sides of the border indicates my Daphne clan is related to her children in New York.
That really is cool. But two Debbie Daphnes. Oh, wow. Deputy Mayor.
Just reiterating, how busy it's been. It's been a wonderful summer and lots going on. But I do have to mention that the international dory races are taking place this Saturday morning. So hopefully we'll have, another traditional heritage kind of event that's ongoing in 70 odd years of international races. And my husband Mike's going to be rowing, so I will be there.
Thank you. And I just like to reiterate how busy this summer has been. It's been a crazy summer with a lot of anniversaries, 30th of this, 40th of that, 100th of this. This was the provincial swim meet was last weekend. I don't think a lot of pools are scared to host it another year after what the Mariners have pulled off. I mean, it was absolutely amazing over there, and it wasn't a pool canteen, it was a pool restaurant with about 4 different booths. They had caught, it reminded me of the old days of the fisheries exhibition when we used to have it over there at the community center. So it was really nice to see, and a great job to the Mariners organizing committee. A shout out goes to them. And again, today at 3:30, Jimmy T and Sarah Levin arrived here in Lunenburg at the Dory Wharf. They rode here from Gloucester, Mass, which for me sounds absolutely impossible. But again, congratulations for arriving safely. They took a little bit longer than they thought because the winds really come up the last few days. So they couldn't, they got to Yarmouth and they had a hard time getting up the rest of the way because the winds were so strong in the afternoons lately. So they finally arrived. So again, congratulations to them. And I wanted to give a shout out to resident Brian Potvin. He's the front man for the Northern Pikes. A couple months ago, Mike Skinner and I approached him about, and we saw they were playing in Dartmouth on Sunday the 17th, so how we're playing in Lunenburg for the hospital on the 18th, and he and the band said, sure. And they played last night at the historic Lunenburg Opera House. And for those of you that were in attendance, it was probably one of the greatest events I've seen in that opera house. They really rocked the building. On a Monday night, it was 250 people there. They were able to raise thousands of dollars for our local hospital. And more importantly, it was a fundraiser where, I mean, everybody had fun. If you didn't have fun there last night, there was something wrong. So again, a shout out to Brian. And this week is as busy as last. Starting this week, towards the end of the week, we have the international dory races on Saturday, but we have the senator from Gloucester's planning to attend. So if Hurricane Erin keeps going the path it's going, he's planning to attend, and he's planning on bringing a crew from NBC, I think it's NBC Boston, and we'll be doing a little sort of social with him and I and others about our relationship with Gloucester and the fact that no matter what's going on around the world, that Lunenburg and the town of Gloucester still have a very tight relationship, and the Dory associations from both countries have kept that tight-knitness intact. So stay tuned. When we get more details, it'll be up on our socials, and they'd like to have people whenever it may happen. They're looking at Friday evening now if the weather cooperates of that little event. So if it does happen, it'll be on socials, and they'd like people to be down at the wharf, make it look busy while the TV crews are there. So again, there's a lot going on. And then Saturday morning, the place to be is the Adams Knickle and area wharves, where you're red and white, bring your Canadian flags and share on the teams. All the teams that have qualified this year are from the town of Lunenburg area. So again, come support not only your Canadians, but your fellow Lunenburgers on against the Americans while they're here. So again, I do want to also take a special minute to thank my colleagues around the table. Last weekend, those that could were at the provincial swim meet, working the canteen, washing kitchen floors, I've been told. So the deputy mayor was washing the kitchen floor. So again, we're really trying to get involved with the community and showing our support. And, some of us are fortunate enough that we can attend more than others, but that doesn't matter. We're all here as a team. And again, I want to thank those that can. And again, that's really all I have to say. But if anyone says there's nothing going on in Lunenburg, they're obviously they're not following posters or posts or whatever, because there's a lot going on for a small town. And at that time, really, there's items for consideration of the committee of the whole. We have to let staff know, because we do have a committee of the whole meeting on Tuesday, September 2nd. There'll be an agenda coming out another week or so. There's really nothing on there. Motion action list is just there, so we can actually move for a recess and go into closed session. So someone prepared to make a motion to moved by Councillor Strawn to go into closed session. Thank you. Thank you very much, those of you that stayed the whole time.